Today in New York, the Syrian-American Consultative Congress Organization held a conference attended by the highest political and administrative experts of the Syrians in America and elite American academics, diplomats, researchers, and media professionals interested in human rights in Syria and the world. The conference was to honor the very well-known and respect various award winners and human rights lawyer and defender Mr. Anwar Al-Bunni, who was honored by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. The ceremony was organized by Dr. Hicham Alnachawati, head of the Syrian Freedom Path Organization, journalist and activist Ayman Abdel Nour, and writer and researcher Issam Khoury, hosted by the Syrian-American businessman Mr. Asaad Jabara.
So Mr. Anwar Al-Bunni, very brief introduction about him. He is a human rights lawyer from Syria, was born in 1959 in Hama to Christian family, activist and descendant left politics. And US President George Bush named Al-Bunni in a speech as a political prisoner unfairly jailed by the Syrian regime. Mr. Kenneth Roth said, quote, that this dent in impunity behind so many atrocities in Syria, one of several similar prosecutions underway, bears a measure of respect to the victim and provides hope for further justice. These persecutions can help to deter further atrocities in Syria and elsewhere.
This conference represented an opportunity to bring together the components of the Syrian people abroad and to enhance communication and cooperation between them. The meeting comes, especially after the start of the process of normalizing relations from some Arab countries with the dictator Bashar Assad's regime in Syria. This conference could be an opportunity to express different points of view and discuss ways to achieve peace and stability in Syria, and to send a clear message of the position of the Syrian opposition in America to the American administration, urging it to reveal its strategy to deal with the ruling regime in Syria, who has caused the death of hundreds of thousands and the displacement of millions since the start of the Syrian Freedom Revolution in 2011, and against which several acts passed from U.S. Congress, such as the Kaiser Act and the Captagon Act.
One simple fact is true: we will never give up. We will never go in. We will fight it to the bitter end. We will hold him accountable for what he has done, he and his family, he and his thugs. And we will never forget, we will never forgive either.
Urging this administration to exert the greatest possible pressure through strict implementation of these acts issued against the Syrian regime, with a call to direct regional countries to stop the normalization and float in of this terrorist regime that committed documented genocides and crimes against human rights and imprisoned his opponents and dissidents in violation of universal human rights.
They must to have strategy. We must, as Syrians, know what the plan of US about the region. And we try to help to put this strategy and this plan to suggest some steps they must to take it to support rebuilding Syria democracy.
The acts issued against this Syrian regime call to impose sanctions on any party or entity that establishes any commercial, financial, or economic relations with the ruling regime in Syria at the level of individuals, companies, and governments. However, the current U.S. administration has neglected some of the provisions of this acts and has not imposed sanctions on some parties that re-establish relations with the Syrian regime, which has sparked widespread criticism by some political and media parties in the United States.
This is a great nation. But the problem we don't have leaders, we have politicians, and there's a difference. The U.S. government, since Obama days, has been totally careless with regard to Syria. Didn't care, really didn't mean much to them.
It is difficult to predict what will happen in the future, but we must continue to work toward achieving democracy and justice in Syria. Dr. Alnachawati stated and added we must continue working to enhance awareness, education, advocate for freedom, democracy, justice and human rights and dignity, and encourage other stakeholders' participation.
There's no solution in Syria other than keeping the tight pressure or the threat to using force to impose a political solution and hold Assad accountable and bring him to justice.
13 years have passed since the start of the Syrian Revolution, during which the ruling dictatorial regime in Syria destroyed the country to stay in power, with the help of Russia and Iran. Will the day come when the Syrian people will be liberated and achieve their democratic demands, freedom, and achieve justice?